In this video, I'm going to talk specifically about Step 1 of the Mapping Ancient Egypt project. So, in Step 1, you are going to use multiple maps to carefully freehand outline the land and water borders of ancient Egypt. Now, you can use the maps that I have scanned and uploaded for you. You can use maps that you find online. You can use the maps in the social studies book to create this outline. You're also going to need to use other maps for the other parts as well. So the map that I like to start with to start my outline is found in the Nile River book. This book, The Nile River in the Sand, is where I'm getting this first map. So this map shows a nice outline of the Nile River area in ancient Egypt. However, this map is a lot bigger than the map that I'm going to create on my piece of paper. This map includes Egypt, Sudan, and surrounding African countries, even south of Sudan. The furthest south on my checklist that I'm going to need to include is a little bit of the White Nile and the Blue Nile. So what I'm going to do, just to keep things simple and that I don't distract myself with everything at the bottom of this map, is that I'm going to cover it with a post-it. So I know that I can always lift the note later to make sure I know which one is the White Nile and which one is the Blue Nile. But my map and my piece of paper that I'm using is going to start with the Mediterranean Sea and come all the way south into the White Nile and Blue Nile split. As far as east and west go, as long as I catch the western border of Egypt and go as far east as to get a little bit of Saudi Arabia and what's on the other side of the Red Sea, so that I can label Asia on that side, that's what I will include. So this part, starting with a plain piece of paper, mine just happens to be yellowish, so that you can see it better on the screen. I'm going to use this and try to replicate it as best as I can using the whole sheet of paper. What I don't want to happen is to draw too small and start in a tiny corner. My Mediterranean Sea only goes up to this part, and I end up drawing all of Africa on this page. So, I'm going to use a pencil. I'm going to sketch lightly so that I have an idea of where I need some of these lines and borders for land and water. And I'm going to just start sketching. I know about halfway through the page is maybe a little bit above halfway through the page is where this Egypt line present day borders are. So we're going to keep that in mind. I know I've got the Nile River over here. It's got this S curve to it. That's going to be an important one. And the Red Sea needs to be included. Maybe not the whole thing, but at least part of the Red Sea needs to be included here. So all of the maps end up looking different at the end, but I'm going to do a quick sketch and show you a few tips and tricks along the way. So first I looked at that border of Egypt. It's got a nice straight line to it with a little right angle, so I marked where I wanted that line to be. Most of the lines are going to be estimates, but this one's going to be a straight line, so I happen to use a ruler or another straight edge to mark off those two lines for the corner of present-day Egypt. Now, the northern border It's got some curves to it, so I'm going to add a few curves. These are just estimates. And then the border of the Mediterranean Sea, it's got some curve, goes from the north to the south a little bit. I'm not worried about every single bump on the Mediterranean Sea, but I do want to mark where the Nile Delta is going to be. That should have some obvious curve to it. And then I'm going to mark up where the Mediterranean Sea curves up and ends by Israel. Then I've got the Nile Delta, which has several smaller streams. I don't need to mark all of them because that would be way too many details, but I will mark that, show that it is a delta. Then I'll start sketching in where the Nile River is. I'm following the map best I can, knowing where some of the major curves and bumps in the river are, but I don't need every single little twist and turn. Adding the rest of my border of Egypt on the other side of the Nile. And then I'm going to add in part of the Red Sea. Sinai Peninsula sits right there in the middle of the Red Sea. So I'm going to add just a rough sketch where that will look like. And in Sudan, there's a big curve, and I want to make sure that sticks out. The Nile River comes down, and it looks like it comes back up again. And it comes down. And then I need to make sure I save some space so that I can show where the Blue Nile and the White Nile separate. I can add some of those smaller tributaries. Biggest one here is at Bara. That's the one I'm going to choose to include. Then on the other side, I might want to include a few sketches on the borders of Libya and Chad. A couple more right angles here. Just kind of sketching them in. I'll trace over everything a little bit later. And in that bottom corner, I'm going to leave that blank for now. That's going to have maybe my key, my legend later.